8 California school districts are being allowed to opt out of No Child Left Behind. The controversial education reform law was launched by the Bush administration in 2002, but has come under fire for its strict requirements and tough sanctions. Now, San Francisco, Oakland, and Fresno, among other school districts, want to try out a different system for holding themselves accountable. Jill Tucker, how unusual is it for individual school districts to get this kind of waiver from No Child Left Behind, and how will they measure their performance?
Well, to answer the first question, they are the only districts in the entire country that have a waiver, an individual district waiver. This is a first under the No Child Left Behind. Prior to this, states were the only ones that could ask for a waiver of the No Child Left Behind law. And frankly, most states got one. 40 states in D.C. have a waiver to get them out from under some of these really bad and expensive sanctions. But they had something that California didn't. They had teacher buy-in and union buy-in to allow the school districts and the state to evaluate teachers and principals using student test scores. And in California, that has been a significant, huge, monumental barrier to getting any kind of waiver from the federal government, from the Obama administration. So these districts basically got together and said, look, we represent 20% of the California population. We are going to create our own system. We are going to now police ourselves, so it isn't the state sort of over them and the federal government over that. We're going to police ourselves. We're going to judge schools and look at schools, evaluate schools using all sorts of things. Test scores, sure, but also what do parents, teachers, and students think of their school? They're going to look at suspension rates. They're going to look at attendance rates. They're going to look at so many different things. And the superintendents from these 8 districts say it'll be much, much better. But they do have this little roadblock that they still have to get the union buy-in as well. They didn't have to have it prior to the waiver, but they will at some point have to have that in order to continue.
And what are the unions saying about that at this point? What's the feeling?
Well, the California Teachers Association quickly put out a press release when this decision was announced, saying it was a divisive and disappointing decision that they made to give these districts a waiver, that the teachers' unions in general had not been involved in applying for the waiver, that they have been left out of the process, and that it's been a very divisive issue within these communities. But we'll see. It'll be district by district. Some of the district unions are already bought into it. In San Francisco and Oakland, that's not the case. So.
You know, with the federal government, the fact that they granted that waiver, does that mean that the feds have signed off on this sort of alternate assessment scheme that the districts have come up with? Or is it simply a kind of thing where, okay, you can try this for a year and then we'll revisit it?
Well, it's a 1-year waiver, but the approval of it is basically giving them the stamp of the approval that the plan that they have is sound, and that in exchange they no longer have to adhere to these incredibly difficult sanctions. They had to pay for tutoring from private tutors, from others, very expensive in schools that were failing. They had to have a lot of busing for schools that were failing. So it was very expensive to be under No Child Left Behind. And No Child Left Behind considered pretty much all schools receiving Title I money for low-income kids as failing at this point because 100% of kids weren't proficient in English and math.
Well, under this new evaluation system then, who polices these school districts that are supposed to have these new systems and are supposed to be working better than No Child Left Behind?
Well, basically they say we all will. And they're going to they're going to police each other and themselves. They're going to have an oversight panel or group that will help look at how the districts are doing. And if a school is failing, it will get a mentor school assigned to it to work with them and help them implement new policies. So they will be looking at what the evaluations are showing. It isn't as if they're going to have an evaluation go, oh, that doesn't look so good, off you go. They will be actually sort of policing how everybody's doing, because if it doesn't work and you don't see improvement and there are complaints, it will fail for everyone and they'll be back under No Child Left Behind.
Jill, what's likely to happen after the year is up? I mean, a year seems like a very short amount of time, especially considering what a gigantic system has to be developed. Are they, signaling already that they're hoping to get renewals? And if it is successful, is there a chance that the entire state of California could ask for a state waiver like these other 40 states have done?
Well, they have to bolster their plan. They do at some point have to get union buy-in, and then we'll ask for another waiver. I think they're hoping for that. Ultimately, the Congress is trying to rewrite No Child Left Behind, and I think the other districts across the state and California as a whole are hoping that the actual law will change and they won't have to go through this waiver process and get the teacher union buy-in.
Things are moving through Congress at a steady clip right now, right?
Yeah, that's not working out so far, but I think there's still the hope.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that, Jill. Thank you.